Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Pet Show. Is your rescued Shih Tzu acting a bit shy? Does your calico have you totally terrified? Are your doodles behaving like little delinquents? Well, if you love your dogs and adore your cats, I know you do, and really want to understand them almost as well as they understand you. If you really want to figure out what's going on in your dog's head and how they think and why they behave the way they do, you know what to do, right? Stay tuned because once again, right here, right now, it is time for the Pet Show. That's right, America and Canada's first and only real pet psychology, pet training, pet behavior, and of course, pet lifestyle show. So hop up on my couch, bring those furry little buddies with you, folks, because it is that time once again to let the animal analyzing begin. Hello, everyone. I'm Warren Eckstein. This is the Pet Show, the place where we absolutely, positively, never a doubt about it, love, adore, and as I stress every single week, respect pets as much as you do. By the way, if you want to join me on the Ever-Growing Pet Show family, you can always send me an email. Just go to the website, thepetshow.com, all one word, thepetshow.com. Right on the front, you'll say, Ask Warren. Send me whatever, well, I'm going to say, be careful, but send me whatever kind of questions about your pets that you may want to send me. I got some interesting questions this week, which we'll go over a little bit later on the show as well. But if you have a question about your dog or cat's behavior, they're digging, they're jumping, they're humping, your cats don't get along, you have a new boyfriend and your dog just can't deal with him, you left your dog home alone and he chewed up everything you could possibly think of in the house, get the idea, right? That's what this show's about. Helping people resolve any issues that they may be having with their dog or cat's behavior. And I state this every week. It's a lot more likely any issues that the dogs or cats are having with the human behavior. It's not easy living with people. Take it from me, really. We have plenty of time to answer your questions. Lots of real important information coming up on today's show. Some great questions come in on the Ask Warren. Got a couple of phone calls already coming on the show as well. But I picked out some interesting topics here on the show as well. Stuff you may not think about on an everyday basis, but as a good pet owner, you need to. For example, training your dog. Training your dog is really, really important. We all know that, right? But as a good pet owner, there's something you can do that's just as important, maybe even more important than training. Coming up on the Pet Show, the most misunderstood and neglected part of educating your dog. So your dog sits, your dog stays, maybe he comes when you call him. He's trained pretty well. Is that enough? Or is there something you can do that's more, that's going to give your dog a much better, much more quality life? We're going to talk about that coming up a little bit later. Don't forget now, it's like any good therapist, it's my job to make you guys feel a little guilty, right? Also coming up, lick, 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 lick. Is your cat's constant licking, that constant grooming, driving you absolutely insane? You know, it's normal for cats to constantly groom themselves, but a lot of cats are over grooming, and it may not be their fault. So if you have a cat that's licking, licking, licking constantly 24/7, we'll take a look at that as well. And you know, many years ago, when I was training a lot of advanced training in Germany, the question came up with a group of us as to whether or not dogs have memories. And how and what do they really remember? It was a real interesting topic. You know, we all had our backgrounds in behavior and training and doing schutzen and police work and military work. So it was an interesting question in terms of memories. So the question is, do dogs have memories and what do they remember? I got to admit, might have been a couple of beers involved with that discussion. We'll take a look at that coming up a little bit later. Also, it's spring almost, right? Winter, although living in Arizona, I can't tell what time of year it is, okay? But spring is in the air, winter's in the air, summer's in the air, fall's in the air. What does that mean for your pet? Does the change of the season really influence your dog or cat's behavior? If you're one of those people that focus on your dog or cat, do you notice different times a year that maybe their behavior may change a little bit, their sleeping habits may change a little bit? We're going to take a look at that coming up as well. As always, plenty of time for your questions and comments. So, if your dog is jumping, humping, Cat woke you up at 3 a.m. or peed on your favorite rug. Your dog's chewing, barking, digging, suffering with separation anxiety. Maybe your dachshund's depressed. Maybe your cat has litter box issues, or your dog chewed your cell phone. I'm here to help you cope with your pets and more than likely help your pets cope with you. So the phone number here at the Pet Show, you can always leave a message and we'll put you on the air at another time. That phone number here, 877-725-8255, 877-725-8255. That is the way to get through. And as I said, a lot of people, I'm telling you, tons and tons of emails came in this week from Ask Warren. Just go to the website, thepetshow.com. Don't forget the, all one word. You'll enjoy the website as well. Everything there is free, so you'll enjoy that. But at the same time, you can ask me whatever questions you may want to ask me. Some of them are pretty embarrassing. I'm not going to go over some of those with you, but it was kind of interesting on taking a look at some of those. I think I'll post some of those emails as well. By the way, you should be following me YouTube, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein as well. So before we get started, you know, I'm sitting at my home. You guys know I live in Arizona, and I have my studio upstairs, and I spend a lot of time up here with my guys, Molly and Willie, and figuring out what I want to talk about, or do I want to write about this? Do I want to discuss this? And I was looking at myself, and I always try to be a little self-critical. Well, if I could self-criticize myself, then I can criticize everyone out there, right? And I was looking around the other day, and I was looking at Molly and Willie, my two rescues, who you'll adore. And I said to myself, am I really being a good pet guardian? You know, I spend a lot of time, I'm sitting right now in front of two computers. So I thought we'll discuss, if we have time today. If not, I'll definitely going to put this up on YouTube and my Facebook pages. Your screen time, that's right, the time you spend on screen actually affects your relationship with your pets. And the impact can be surprisingly really, really deep. See, these are the type of things that the Pet Show differs. You know, we saw peeing and pooping and jumping and humping and digging, but really, my listeners, and you know who you are, you're eccentric like me. You love your dogs, you love your cats, they're part of the family. You want to understand a lot about them. So we're going to take a look at that as well, whether or not the amount of time we spend on the screen affects them. You know, when I was a kid growing up, my mother would kick me out of the house as soon as she could. Go out, take the dog for a walk, play with the dog, do this, go. And we did. All the neighborhood kids, we had dogs, and they'd play together, and they'd run around, and we'd have a great time, and it'd start getting dark, and you hear, Warren, come home. And that's the way that's the way we played back then. I'm not criticizing parents or anything right now, but I'm saying is that if we're spending so much time on the screen, and our kids are spending so much time on a screen, are they really getting that relationship ability? I learned most of my relationship ability with my animals. And, you know, I had rats, dogs, pigs, chickens, whatever. Anyway, so we're going to talk about that if we have time. As I said, if I don't get to it today, I will get to it another time. But I think it's really, really important. Something else came up this week. My dogs are both going in to have their teeth cleaned in the next couple of weeks. And before they have their teeth cleaned, they're a little bit older. I always like to have a blood test to make sure everything's okay. So I always wanted to run this by. Did you know the average cost of pet care went from $2,086 in 2024 to $2,360 in 2025. So it's on the rise, and a lot of people say, why is vet costs going up? We talked about that a little bit in the past, but one of the reasons is a lot of these veterinary practices are now owned by big corporations, so there's more of a demand for this test or that test. Many warranted, but there are some tests that I don't really think need to be done. Again, the number here, 877-725-8255. The phones are always busy. Leave a message. We'll put you on the air another time. Or you can go to the website, and the website's thepetshow.com. You'll see right on the front page, Ask Warren, whatever questions you want to ask me, and I'll try to answer them on the show, and I may answer some personally there as well. So, again, that's thepetshow.com. I didn't come up with a question of the week this week, but I think it would be a great one. Do you think that you should be spending more time with your dogs and cats and less time, or your kids especially, more time with your dogs and cats than they spend on this screen? I think it's a good idea. We all know the benefits of hanging out with our dogs and cats. They're honest, they don't lie, they don't cheat, they don't borrow money. Makes it a lot easier to live with them. We're going to go to a phone call in a few minutes. I got an interesting phone call coming up, but I got a real interesting email this week. And let me just kind of share. We'll take a look when we come back. And I'm sure a lot of you may have run into this as well. And they always start off the same way. Hey, Warren. And this one's no different. came from Ellen. And I'll start now and I'll respond after we take a break. Warren, my 8-year-old Chihuahua mix has started waking up around 2:30 a.m. and won't stop whining until I feed him and take him out. I've tried adjusting his feeding times and times I take him out, but if I want to get to sleep at all, I have to get him up before he slept through the night. Is there something going on here? Well, I guess we're going to kind of delve into this because I get a lot of this, more so with older dogs, and this is an 8-year-old dog, so this is not really an old dog, kind of middle-aged dog, and I get it from a lot of cat people. The dog or the cat wakes them up in the middle of the night, and in some cases, there's legitimate reasons why they do that, but in other cases, it's actually a behavior that they're using to just outsmart the people that they live with. And it's true. I should do my next book should be how people are outsmarted by their dogs or cats. Just the other day, my wife Denise, the lovely Denise, just fed Willie and Molly, and she added a little fresh chicken that she might have been cooking as well. And she finished feeding them, and she had to go somewhere. I don't know wherever she was going. And I walked in the room, and Willie and Molly looked at me and says, "Hey, man, we're hungry, man. She didn't feed us." So, just as I was ready to put down their feeding, feeling guilty that Mom didn't feed them, Denise walked in and said, Hey, Warren, I just fed the dogs. Did they try to hustle me? They really can do that. So we're going to respond. We're going to take a break in a couple minutes. We're going to respond to Ellen and find out why her 8-year-old Chihuahua is waking her up at 2:30 in the morning, and maybe we can get her a little bit more sleep. Let me do this. Let me take a quick break. We'll get back to some more emails, some great topics coming up. As I said, training your dog's critical, but there's a lot more important things you need to do. But right now, take your dog to work days every day with me. We're back on the Pet Show. Before that last break, we were talking about an email I got from Ellen, and she said her 8-year-old Chihuahua mix has started waking her up in the middle of the night, 2:30, won't stop whining until I feed him and take him out. I've tried adjusting his feeding times, and well, first thing, anytime you have a dog who's changing their sleeping status, whether it be waking you up in the middle of the night, getting you up early, it's critical to make sure you check with the vet to make sure there's nothing physically going on there. However, at the same time, if you get a clean physical health, think about what you're doing. The dog's waking you up at 2:30 for whatever reason. You're getting up because you feel guilty. I understand guilt. My last name's Eckstein, right? So the dog wakes you up, and then you feed him, take him out, and you just told him that if he wants to get fed and go out at that time of night, all he's got to do is wake you up. So there's some reinforcement there, but I think it could be a medical issue as well. 8 years old, sometimes as our dogs get older, and 8 years old is not that old, especially for Chihuahua mixed breed, sometimes what often happens is they become a little senile. And sometimes the focus is not the same as it was. So that's why I say a good checkup with the vet's important. However, don't feed them at that point. The changing of scheduled feeding, that's all real good. But you got to make sure the dog is healthy. You can't just correct the dog if there's something physically going on. But very often what happens is, as I said, from a behaviorist standpoint, the people or you or even me sometimes kind of fall into the trap of reinforcing behaviors they don't want to reinforce. I'll give you an example. My dogs get me up every morning at 5:30, 6 o'clock. I'm up anyway. It's no big deal. I take them out. But if I'm not home, they'll sleep till 9 or 8:30 till Denise is ready to take them out. So they have me totally hustled at that point. So Ellen, first thing, check with your veterinarian. Make sure there's nothing going on there. Also, check to see if there's any changes in your home. Is a water heater going on? Is the next door neighbor leaving earlier for work? Anything like that can make a change as well. Once you get that clean bill of health, what I would do is, again, adjust the feeding the way you did, but again, start ignoring it, because as soon as you respond to it, you're reinforcing it. But only ignore it once we've made sure that the dog is in good health. Again, the number here, 877-725-8255, 877-725-8255. That is the way to get through. I'm Warren Eckstein, and yes, you are listening to Let me tell you about my best friends. None of them walk upright. We are back. I love those shirts that say none of my friends walk upright that I have. Anyway, we're back on the Pet Show. I'm Warren Eckstein. Let's do this. The phone number here, 877-725-8255. Go to the website. If you have a question, you can ask me questions there. Just Click on Ask Warren. It's right on the front page. Let's go to a phone call right now. I've spoken to these people before, but they have another question. They have a new puppy, so let's go to Denise. Hey, Denise, welcome to the show.
Calling in on our new puppy, Arabella. We asked you a question via email regarding puppy biting, but we also have a follow-up question. We have in her crated area or her gated area puppy pads, plus we have the puppy pads on our balcony where she likes to go out patio. Are we confusing her by leaving the puppy pads in both places if we ultimately want to train her to be outside? Because currently she's going in both places.
It can be okay, Denise, it can be okay to use puppy pads even if your long-term goal is outdoor potty training. The trick is using them strategically so they don't become a crutch. How to use the pads without messing up the outdoor training. This is something I'm quite familiar with, and I'll tell you why. For those of you who are old enough, remember the beautiful model Cheryl Teagues? Cheryl was a good friend. I trained several of her dogs, but there was a time back in the 80s where I was training dogs for all these beautiful, beautiful models in New York City on Fifth Avenue and Park Avenue for Vogue and Women's Wear Daily. It was a tough job, guys. But someone had to do it. And sometimes they were out late and they didn't want to walk their dogs in New York City. So it was a combination of teaching their dogs to go outside and use in some cases, a litter box or a pad at the same time. First thing, a couple of things you need to do. Prioritize outdoor trips, okay? If it's okay to get the dog outside now, first thing in the morning, outside. After meals, outside. After naps, outside. After play, outside. Every 1 to 2 hours. If they go outside, throw a party, treats, praise, the whole thing. Here's what I would recommend doing as well. Taking some of the pads, the pad that they may have been used, bringing it into the yard area where you want the dog ultimately to go, throwing some dirt and grass on top of it. Pick a time when you assume the dog is going to have to go, so he gets used to going on the pad outside in an area with the dirt on top of it. Eventually, the pad can be gone. Is it confusing? It's only confusing if you let it be. Use pads only as a backup. Be consistent, only in one spot. The more pads you put around the house, a little here in the patio, a little here, a little there, it's really not consistent. Keep the pads away from food, keep the pads away from sleeping areas, never scatter pads around the house, gradually fade the pads away. I know there's a lot of information. Now, once the puppy is reliable using the pad, move the pad a few feet closer to the door every few days, eventually place it next to the door, then place it outside the door, finally remove it entirely. This creates a kind of a smooth and easy transition from inside surface to outside, and reward outdoor success more than pad success, and make the outdoors think that the dog hit the lottery. Bottom line is this. Yes, you can use puppy pads and still end up with a fully outdoor trained dog. However, just make sure the pads are a temporary tool, not the main bathroom, and I think that's really, really critical. And I get this an awful lot. Sometimes you have a puppy that can't go outside yet. They don't have all their vaccinations, and you can't use that. So using a pad in conjunction with outside at the same time works great. But just remember, when you have a puppy, 10 to 15 minutes after they eat, they usually got to go. When they first wake up, they usually have to go. After they get some exercise, they usually have to go as well. So one of the things I always recommend when you start taking the dog into the yard area where you have that buried pad, what I want you to do is I want you to give the dog a little exercise so he goes out there, and when he gets out there, I want you to praise him. Now, a funny story about pads. The pads were invented by a man in New York named Alan Simon many years ago. He was big. He owned a big company called Four Paws Pet. And I knew Alan very well. We used to go out together. Anyway, he was a multi-millionaire, made it in the pet industry. And his was called not his all kinds, but he invented the term wee-wee pads. And I just remember him pulling up to my little office and my Chevy in a Maserati, and I look at the back of the car, and his license plate said, wee-wee one. Only on Long Island, folks. Anyway, pads are good, but it is interesting, and there are cases where I do recommend. For example, as I said, when I was working with all these models in New York City, there are certain people that have challenges or disabilities. They can't get out as often as they want to get out. So using a pad and outside. You can do that if that's what you prefer. But as Denise said, she wants to ultimately have the puppy go outside. So starting that right now can make all the difference in the world. Just make sure you're consistent. And as I said, don't put the pads all over the place. Once you start doing that, then you're teaching the dog it's good to go inside. And as I said, when they do go outside, it's really, really important to praise them and let them know how good they were. And good luck with the new puppy. I know your loss was a tough one. They had a dog for many years. I know them for a long time. So this was about the pad. If anyone's had great success with the pad, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email at thepetshow.com. I'd love to hear from you guys as well. Also, I want you to take into consideration, there are some times when we have a dog who's been totally housebroken, never had accidents in the house. All of a sudden, they're becoming, I like to use the term, chronologically challenged, a little bit older. They don't have the continence they used to have. So sometimes having pads in the house for the older dog gives them the opportunity to eliminate in the middle of the night or when they have to go without losing their dignity. And it's real important to understand that as well. Yeah, dogs have dignity. They really, really, really do. The phone number here, 877-725-8255. 877-725-8255. Coming up, something more important than training your dog. And if your cat is lick, keeping you up, we'll talk about that as well. Again, if you have a question or comment, you can always shoot me a note at just go to the website, thepetshow.com. A lot of info there as well. Thepetshow.com. Don't forget all one word. You see, ask Warren, ask away. I'll get to as many questions as I can. And we are back. I'd love to listen to the rest of the song, but we're back on the Pet Show. I'm Warren Eckstein. Just a reminder, there's a lot of topics I talk that I'm going to get to. And I've been doing this show for almost 50 years. A lot of topics I don't get to. So what happens to the topics that I don't get to? That's where my YouTube channel comes into play. Very often, when I don't get to a specific topic on the show, within a couple of days, I'll post it on my YouTube channel where I can actually go into a lot more detail. So if you're not subscribing to my YouTube channel, why? There's hundreds of great videos. It's absolutely free. So just go to youtube.com/my name, Warren Eckstein, Eckstein. We do a lot of work. There's a lot of great info there, a lot of animal saving there. So check out youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. Before we get to another email or another call, grooming. I get so many questions about cats that overgroom. And I think a lot has to do with boredom. But hear me out on this. Grooming is actually an essential part of our cat's behavior. So much so that they actually spend around half of their waking hours grooming themselves. But when your cats groom themselves too much, what could it possibly mean? Over-grooming. Happens a lot. A lot of people out there listening right now have cats that are over-grooming. Hairballs, everything. Over-grooming in cats happens when a cat licks parts of their body more than normal. Listen to this. A lot of people don't understand this. Cats actually release the feel-good endorphins when they groom themselves. So licking themselves makes them feel good. So stressed cats will actually lick themselves to make themselves more comfortable. So if you have that cat that's over licking, you might want to take into consideration, is the cat stressed and what's doing it? They may overgroom, often causes hair loss, bare patches, can actually lead to skin wounds, infections, hairball issues. Bottom line is this. Yeah, cats are going to groom. And yeah, they're going to overgroom sometimes. But it's really important, and I'm such a, when I wrote the book, brag a little bit, How to Get Your Cat to Do What You Want, one of my best-selling books by Random House. When I wrote that book, I talked about cats being so misunderstood. And very often, things in our house, cats are little. They get stressed out by a loud noise, the dryer shutting off, the dishwasher going on. And when your cat is stressed, or a new person moving in, or a new animal moving in, one of the ways they display this stressful behavior is by grooming themselves, by licking themselves constantly. Dogs do it too, but it's, they can actually develop what's called a lick granuloma. So it's a very common. So if you have a cat, dog as well, if you notice all of a sudden they're over grooming and they're licking themselves, of course you want to speak to your vet, but also take into consideration their lifestyle. Are you boring your cat? A lot of cats are indoor, which I recommend, by the way, 100%. But it's important to you to make sure that if you have a cat that's living indoors, you make that indoor-outdoor interesting. That's absolutely critical. So again, Over-grooming can be a behavior issue, can be medical. Very often, it's just a matter of stress. And a lot of people, and I've never quite understood it. Dog owners are and I deal with them. When I first started doing the show, it was 90% dog questions and 10% cat questions. Now it's like 50-50 or maybe even 60. Cats are just such incredible animals. And for years, people really never understood cat behavior. And as I said earlier, when I was studying in Europe, one of the things I was always amazed by, I was training dogs primarily, but I was always amazed sitting down with the behaviorists from the universities and trying to really steal from them, get out of their heads some of the most fascinating things they understood about cats. One thing about cats, we will never, ever, ever totally understand them. And I think that's a good thing. I believe the mystique that cats have is a good part of them. But there are things they do. For example, the cat that pees on your bed, right? How do I explain to someone that the cat's peeing on your bed is a good thing, not a bad thing? When you put your head in some feline urine, Warren's hard going to come in and convince you that it's good. But listen to me. Very often when a cat pees on their owner's bed, it's because they're leaving their scent and their owner's not there. It's kind of like Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs, but they don't leave breadcrumbs. They may mark so that you can find your way home. That's why I love doing this show. There's a lot of misinformation about behavior out there. That's what we do together. I learn more from you than you guys learn from me. Again, the phone number here, 877-725-8255, 877-725-8255. Or again, go to the website. Everything on my website's free. thepetshow.com. All one word. Ask me a question. Shoot me a comment. We'll take a look at them. We'll get to them next week. I'm Warren Eckstein. You're listening to The Pet Show. We are back on The Pet Show. I'm Warren Eckstein. Lots of good info coming up. We're going to take a look at something, the most important thing that people that live with a dog can do. And training is important, but it's not the most important thing. And as I said, if we have time, I really want to get into this. If not, I'll put it on YouTube. Sitting around a guest house in Germany. I guess it was maybe 1970-ish. Anyway, sitting around with a bunch of behaviorists and trainers, all of us doing really some advanced type training for policemen, whatever we were doing. I can't talk about it. But anyway, bottom line is, it was fascinating, and we talked about whether or not dogs have memory. So we'll get to that in a little bit. Right now, I want to share another email I got this week. Inundated with, I love getting these emails because it gives me more time to kind of delve into with you guys. Hey, Warren. I have 2 Yorkie females, one 3 pounds, one 6 pound. The 6-pound Molly hates Maddie. When I say hate, she hates her and tries to choke her out. Damaged her eye. I keep them separated. Anything I can do, I heard about through a friend. Any answers would help. I heard about me through a friend. Well, now you're my friend as well. This is pretty aggressive behavior, okay? I hurt one of the eyes, wants to kill. But the key word here is the concept that you're keeping them separated. And I get that, okay? So let me respond. The more they're separated, the more aggressive the behavior is going to become. What you need to do is give them the opportunity to be around each other in non-aggressive situations. For example, I would, if you have a friend or someone else in the family, if you can take Maddie and Molly both out for a walk at the same time, and walk parallel with each other, not on top of each other, maybe even different sides of the streets. This way, they visualize each other, but their focus is not entirely on each other. Specifically, Molly's focus is not on Maddie. She's smelling where other dogs have been, raccoons, possum. She's having a sniff day out there. The more time they spend outside, the closer you get to each other over a period of time, we can resolve this issue for you. Are they ever going to be bosom buddies? I can't guarantee that. But the fact that you're keeping them separated is making them more aggressive. I also would encourage that if you, I don't know, it didn't say where you live here, but I would encourage that you get a recommendation for a good behaviorist. Not only will he be recommending the parallel walking I'm recommending, some good basic training, because what often happens when a dog is being overly assertive at this point, there's a reason for it. Maybe we need to build up the other dog's confidence a little bit. Maybe we have to go into a little bit more socializing. But anytime you have 2 dogs that are not getting along, I can't guarantee I'm going to make them bosom buddies. But you're talking to someone who had 30 dogs at one time. At least I can get them to accept each other. maybe not love each other, but accept each other. And the fact that one's named Molly, just like my dog, makes it even better for me. So again, the bottom line is I would recommend the parallel walking. I think that's important. But the fact that the assertive aggression is there, I would speak to maybe some people at the dog park, or maybe your veterinarian, or some of the other people you know involved with dogs, and find someone that can come in and work with you. This is definitely a resolvable issue, but you need some professional help to resolve it. Wish I had a better answer for you, but sometimes resolutions do require a lot more detail. I'm so glad you called, by the way. 877-725-8255, the phone number. A quick break, then back to all of your emails and your calls, and we'll find out whether or not your dog remembers what you tell him. I'm Warren Eckstein. This is The Pet Show. And if you love your dogs and your cats and really want to figure out why they behave the way they do, maybe they're jumping, humping, digging, scratching, chewing, barking, digging up your backyard, you've come to the right place. That's what we do here on The Pet Show. We've been doing it for almost 50 years, helping people resolve any issues they may be having with their pets, or as I always state, any issues their pets may be having with them, no matter what they are. Now, I'm going to get to some more emails and some more questions in a second, but before we do that, training. You know my background. I don't have to share it with you. You know how many thousands of dogs I've trained, from the most advanced to teaching a dog not to pee on the floor, right? So people say it's the most important thing that you can do is train your dog. Training is really, really, really important, okay? Educating your dog is really important, provided you do it the right way. Forget the abusive ways. But there's something much more important, and I write about this. Socialization. Remember that word. Socialization is one of the most misunderstood and neglected parts of dog training in general, but a very, very important one. Socializing your dog basically just means helping him to feel more comfortable in social situations and around other people, pets, and even objects. If you take the time to socialize your puppy properly now, I hope you're listening, Denise, and continue with it, it'll stay a lifetime. Make socialization a good part of training. But this is some real important info for you. Follow your dog's lead. Whenever you can, follow your dog's lead and don't push how much outside of his comfort zone they are. Let them decide where their comfort zone is, and then we can increase it gradually. Some dogs actually warm up to people right away. They warm up to experiences right away. Others might take much longer to adapt, to feel comfortable, or may not even ever get to that point. Some are confident or at least calm, even in strange places. Others get very anxious and may become defensive or even aggressive. If you know your dog well, you can pretty much judge how your dog's going to react. But if you only just brought your dog home or just adopted one to new relationships, you'll need to start from square one and take things slowly until you find out what he's going to react to in situations. Either way, always try to move at your dog's pace and do your best to make all of his activities, meet and greet, social experiences, fun for him. Let me go a little deeper on this. Heel, sit, stay, down, come, jumping. These are all important things and part of training. But as a behaviorist, as a trainer, socialization is so critical. You know, when I talk about socializing your dog, very often I get tears in my eyes. And people say, why does it make you sad when you talk about socialization, and why it's just as important as training and should be part of it? For years, I spent half of my life at some of the most devastating shelters across the country. I mean, some horrible places. I don't even want to talk about it. And a lot of the dogs and cats I saw there were there for no other reason than they never had the opportunity to be socialized. So therefore, their behavior is considered unsocial. And they're brought to the shelter. I don't have to tell you the rest of the story. Very often that's the case. So, no matter how long you've had your dog, if you're going out and adopting a great new dog today, please do. Or rescuing a dog from a local group. Training is critical. really critical. But in my books, whether it be the dog or cat book, besides teaching heel, sit, stay down, and come, yeah, I teach the basics. It's important. But taking the time to make sure your dog or your cat has confidence, a little self-esteem. Yeah, people think I'm eccentric. I get it. It makes all the difference in the world. Because dogs that are self-confident about themselves and have been socialized very often are the ones that get the opportunity to go to the restaurant and sit on the patio with their owner. Go for a walk in special areas where there are lots of other people. Maybe even go shopping with them. So socialization, folks, take it from me. It's really, really important. I may delve a little bit more into socialization when I do my YouTube on it as well. So again, don't forget the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. So socialization and training is really, really important. It should go together. Okay, so let me do this. I have another email that came in, and this was one from Franklin. Hey, Warren, we have 2 Shelties. I love Shelties. Shelties, a lot of people think they're miniature collies. They're not. They're Shelties, Shetland sheepdogs. We have 2 Shelties, an 8-year-old Sheltie male and a newly adopted 4-year-old female. Bless you people for adopting. Now, the 4-year-old female came from a puppy mill, and she sometimes urinates in the house. We have a crate. When we let her out, she sometimes pees. I'm going to get and respond. I'm going to take a break and I'll respond to Franklin a little bit. Puppy mills. They should not exist. I've investigated so many of them. People are still spending big money and the dogs are being... Why? I'm glad you did. A 4-year-old female who came originally from puppy mill. But again, getting back to what you're talking about, a lot of people don't realize that dogs that are kept in puppy mills, especially females, I don't know, you don't say whether she was bred or not. 4 years old, I'm assuming she probably was. They live in a crate their whole life. They're not socialized. They're not housebroken. They get to stand in their own urine and feces. They just never had the opportunity to live a normal, healthy life. So the fact that she's in a crate is good that she's keeping the crate. I'm not the biggest crate fan, but it's good that she's keeping the crate clean because now that's become her home. But when you bring her out of the crate, that's when she's peeing in other parts of the house. What is that all about? Why is she peeing in other parts of the house? We're going to take a break. We'll get to that, Franklin. There's a lot of people out there. I know so many people have adopted dogs and got dogs from shelters, but this is an easy one for me to resolve. Also coming up, we're going to take a look at whether or not you believe, like I do, that dogs have a memory. And this is an interesting study. A brand new study, found that dog owners tend to rate their pets more highly than their human loved ones in several areas. What are those areas that we believe our dogs rate better than those partners that we have that walk upright? We'll take a look at that as well. Again, the phone number, 877-725-8255. Or again, you can always, 2 things I want to stress here. You can always send me a question or a comment or a story or brag about your dog. Go to the website. Everything there is free, thepetshow.com. You can read the article about me training Carlo Gambino and all the mobsters' dogs as well. So go to the website. Some great info there. Go there. You can just click on Ask Warren or go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. The reason I push on YouTube today is because I'm adding a lot more info there. youtube.com/. What's new, Pussycat? Hey, we are back on the Pet Show. I'm Warren Eckstein. Before that last break, we were talking, we got an email from Franklin about 2 Shelties. One, she's 8-year-old male, and she recently adopted a female that came from a puppy mill. And sometimes the dog is peeing in the house. They have a crate, but when she's let out, she goes. Bottom line is this. You're very lucky that she's keeping the crate clean. I would like to see her in a room with the crate opened up a little bit, giving her a little bit more space. But right now, the crate is good. She's keeping it clean. What you need to do is find out all the different areas in the house where the dog has previously had accidents. If you don't remember, you can go to any pet store, get a black light like the ones we all had in the 70s. Black light at night tells you where the cat peed or the dog peed. Clean it up thoroughly. What I'd like you to do is spend more time with both dogs in many, many different locations within your home. On a leash and a collar if you can't watch them. Take them outside. Make sure she's emptied her bladder first. The more time she spends in other parts of the house, the less apt she is to have accidents there. She's keeping the crate clean because she doesn't want to have accidents where she has to sleep. So the more time she spends in these other areas, the quicker this will take place. Now, it may take a little bit more time. My heart breaks for these puppy mill dogs. I've had many of my own. But the fact that she's keeping it clean is really good. Leash and collar, leash and harness, different locations. If you're sitting around watching TV, while you're watching reruns of Seinfeld, have the dog with you on a leash so you can watch her carefully. If it looks like she has to go, get her right outside, a tremendous amount of praise. The more time the dog spends in different locations of the house, the less apt they're going to have the need to urinate there. But again, you need to find the areas where the dog has gone in the past and clean it up with something specifically made for dogs or cat urine, because a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll reach under the cabinet for a Mr. Clean top job. Nothing wrong with those products, but they all contain ammonia. You ever change a baby's diaper? What does it have? It has ammonia in it as well. So make sure you clean up properly. I hope that helps you out, and bless you for adopting that. You know, I honestly believe this. Adopting a dog or a cat, they know you saved their life, and they pay you back every day for the rest of theirs. The only dog I've ever paid for, as you all know, I trained a dog for the Buster Brown Company. Hi, I'm Buster Brown. This is I live in the shoe. This is my dog, Tiger. Not the original, guys. I'm not that old. The last one owned by the company. And when the dog retired, I trained him for the company. When the dog retired, they wanted to send him off for breeding. I said, no. He's coming home with me. I had to borrow money to buy this dog from Buster Brown, but I did. All the other dogs, from shelter, I've been known to go to a shelter and take 10 dogs out at a time. When you adopt a dog or a cat, they know you saved their lives, and they pay you back every single day for the rest of theirs. Coming up, we're going to take a look at dogs having memories or not. But this was an interesting study. Brand new. Dog owners tend to rate their pets more highly than their human loved ones in several areas, such as companionship and support. They also experience fewer negative interactions with their dogs than with the closest people in their lives, including children and relatives. This was a great study. You know, Jane Goodall, who I got to know pretty well, and I adored, the most incredible woman I ever knew. I mean, when I would do a lecture with her, she would meditate for hours before we did it. Anyway, when she was celebrating her 90th birthday, she stated in an interview that she preferred dogs to chimps. Her whole life was based on studying chimps. So why would she prefer dogs to chimps? This was Jane Goodall's response: because chimps were too much like people. She'd rather spend the time with the dogs. God, I guess that is so true. All right, so as I said, I got so many emails this week, so many questions this week. Oh, here was a nice one. I'm going to share this with you. It's not really a question, just someone sent me a nice email. That's right, Phil. Someone sent me a nice email. Hey, Warren, I don't have a question. I just want to drop you a note and let you know you're one of the very few people I would allow to train my animals. Thank you. While I do not agree with everything you may say, who does? We are on the same page more often than not, more so than anyone else that could bring you to mind. It's okay. You're allowed to be wrong occasionally. Thank you. Just ask my wife. When I listen to your show discuss behavior with people, I'm always shocked at how little most folks understand their animals. Most people live with them day in and day out, but are truly blind to their needs and emotions. I'm 67 this year, and my animals have always been in my life. I've raised everything from a fawn to most types of livestock to dogs, cats, hamsters, and beyond. Life would never be the same without them. Kudos to you and your fellow feelings for the vulnerable among us. Leanne. That's why I do the show, Leanne. Thank you so much for that. Of course you're not going to agree with everything. I don't agree with everything I say sometimes, but I have a lot of years of experience. So, but it's so true that when you're trying to understand behavior, and here's the scenario. You know, years ago, Where do people go for advice about their dogs or their cats? They go to their vet. Very few trainers. When I was training years ago, when I was running the largest training school in New York, pretty much the East Coast, there may have been 5 people in the country that were doing the type of training I was doing, going to people's homes and working with their dogs. Now, the hardest thing in the world to find is someone who's not a pet expert. There's some really incredibly knowledgeable trainers and behaviorists out there, and I urge you to speak with them and follow their advice. But I always preface it by saying this: if it doesn't sound right, if it doesn't look right, if it doesn't smell right, and it looks abusive, chances are it is. I would interview or recommend people talk to their trainers or behaviorists the same way you talk to anyone else for any other member of your family. You need to feel comfortable with them, but more important, your dog needs to feel comfortable with them as well. So, again, if you're looking, if you have questions, you can always send them here to email. I may not always be right, but I'm sure I can guide you in the right direction. Again, check out youtube.com/Warren Eckstein, youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. The phone number, 877-725-8255. The phones get busy. You can leave a phone question there 24/7. I'll use it on the air the following week. Let's do this. It's time for me to take a break here. Let me take a break, and then we'll get back to some more questions you'll be asking. We'll find out whether or not dogs have memories. 877-725-8255. I'm Warren Eckstein, and you're listening to The Pet Show. And we are back on The Pet Show. I'm Warren Eckstein. Phone number here at The Pet Show, 877-725-8255. Best way to do it is send me an email, though, is just go to thepetshow.com. Don't forget that I know I got to stress that, but that's how I had to set up the website, thepetshow.com, all one word. Shoot me an email there, questions, comments, stories, whatever you want. I look at all of them, I promise. I promise I do. So, I got a question this week about someone who was going to give their dog up because their dog was digging holes in their backyard. I guess their roses were more, and petunias were more important than their dog. But I was able to resolve the problem. In fact, I got a thank you note from them. Dogs dig for many different reasons. Sometimes it's too hot in Arizona, they'll dig to get cool. Sometimes they'll bury something. Dogs have to dig. But I like my trees and my bushes too. So what I do is in my backyard, I have kiddie pools. And in the kiddie pools, there's dirt and sand and toys, and that's where the dogs dig. I change them every couple of days. I move them around. So I can have my backyard. My dogs have their own little kind of sandbox to play in. And I have my tomato plants at the same time. But they always remember where they dig. Don't forget that. Speaking of memories, I want to share this with you. This goes back again. I don't know why. I mean, as I get older, these thoughts come into my head. So do dogs have memories? How dogs remember things? Number one, you hear me talk about the associative memory. What does the associative memory mean? For example, the dog associates seeing the leash, going for a walk, you grabbing your keys, going for a ride in the car. However, they also may learn through association that when you pick up your car keys and your purse or your jacket, they're going to the vet, not their favorite place. This is why training works. They link actions to outcomes. So associative memory is really, really important. They may not remember exactly what happened. They do remember something happened and they associate that. So number one is associate memory. Number two, episodic-like memory. They remember events, remembering where they hit a toy. Remember something surprising or stressful. Remember how they reacted in a situation. Then there's the emotional memory. A kind person becomes a safe memory. A harsh tone becomes a warning. A scary dog becomes a long-term fear. So the question about dogs having memories, they do. So I guess you want to know, Warren, how long do dogs remember? I gave this a lot of thought. And as I do, I delve into some of my old notes. Dogs can remember people, places, and experience for years, sometimes even for life. Bottom line, dogs absolutely have memories, strong ones, but they store them through emotion, association, experience, not through storytelling like you and I. It's another thing I want to go into a lot more detail with that I'll post on there. I'll give you an example of. Over the years, working with as many dogs as I've worked with, there are times where I would be taking a dog. Let's say I was walking a dog in New York City, and then all of a sudden we went to one block, and the dog just froze on that one block. And I try to figure out, why is the dog so happy on all the other blocks, but this one block makes him crazy? So I delved in a little bit further. I speak to their owner. I find out maybe there was another dog that went after him, or a person that yelled at him, or somebody threw something at him, or something dropped in front of him. So you can take, and one of the things I learned in Europe is you can take a dog to an area where something occurred 30 years ago, 10 years ago. They may not remember exactly what happened, but they do remember something happened. Same thing with people. Dogs have an incredible memory. I've had dogs where they haven't seen someone for maybe 5 or 10 years, but when they saw that person, they absolutely were spoiled and in love with that person. And they remembered that person as soon as they walked in. And all of a sudden, the dog was on his back, tail wagging, so happy to see them. So do dogs have memories? You bet they do. So be careful. Be careful what you say in front of your pooch. All right, so bottom line is this. Another email. I told you I got a lot of emails, and I love emails more than anything else. I love phone calls, but the emails are critical to me. This was the email. And this, I think a lot of people may react to this as well. Hey, Warren. My dog sometimes growls at me. Should I be concerned? Elliot from Texas. Elliot, obviously it makes sense that you should worry about it. A dog growling at their own person can feel personal, but in most cases it's not a sign of dominance or that the dog suddenly turned on you. Growling is a dog's way of communicating, and it's actually very valuable information. We come back, I'm going to spend a lot of time on that. And the reason I'm going to is a lot of people assume growling is simply a dog being aggressive. I'll talk about my own dog, all right? You know I adopted Molly and Willie, I guess about 6 years ago. Molly and Willie are what they call Chai Pins, Chihuahua mini pin mixes. A blended breed, as I like to call them. Molly, sweetest, most lovable, passive dog in the world. Willie, the same way. Although Willie always has to give you a growl. He always has to give you a growl. Now, when I adopted him, I realized that chances are anyone else that would have adopted Willie probably would have brought him back as an aggressive dog. But I just picked him up and said, knock it off. To this day, he'll growl. But his growl isn't an aggressive growl. A growl doesn't mean he's angry at me. His growl doesn't mean he's going to bite me. His growl means something else. So what's going on? What does a growl really mean? Is your dog uncomfortable? Is he asking for something? Willie, to this day, 6 years later, there are times where I'll pick him up, I'll get a growl. Can I stop it? Why? That's his way of making himself feel comfortable at that point. And the growl goes away in 10 seconds, and he's lovey-dovey. He never growled. He never growls at anyone. Here's the stickler. Willie never growls at anyone. Doesn't growl at my wife, doesn't growl at my friends, but only growls at me. Which made me really go back and figure out that in his earlier life, and it turns out I was 100% right, he was very, very abused by a man. Kicked, beaten, I mean really, really abused. His growl is a survival instinct. I know it breaks your heart as much as it does mine. But I let him growl. He loves to growl. Other people say, why do you let? Because it's nothing but a way of him letting me know that something's not going right. All right. Again, I'm pushing YouTube. I'm going to post more about this on YouTube. If you're not there, it's free. youtube.com/Warren Eckstein. If you go to my website, by the way, thepetshow.com, yeah, you can ask me questions there. But if you've never been to my website, there's hundreds of articles there. There's there's even videos, I think, of me on the Mickey Mouse Club, not the original Mickey Mouse Club, the new Mickey Mouse Club with Justin Timberlake and Chris. Yeah, I was the creature keeper on the Mickey Mouse Club. So check out thepetshow.com, and while you're there, you might want to check out an interview I did with my nephew Mike and Rosenbaum as well. So thepetshow.com. It's a fun website. Check it out. I'm sure you enjoy it. Phone number here, 877-725-8255. Let me take a quick break here, and then we'll finish up talking about why dogs growl. Of course, you can take your puppy everywhere if they're socialized. So before that last break, I was talking about my own dog, Willie, and we were talking about growling. And the reason we're talking about growling is I had gotten an email from a listener about a growling dog, and I want to spend some time on this because so many dogs are misunderstood about growling. So hear me out. Here's the key. A growl simply means, for the most part, not always, your dog is uncomfortable and asking for space before things escalate. The concern isn't the growl itself, but why is the dog growling? What does a growl usually mean? Not always aggressive. A growl could mean that your dog is afraid or he's uncertain. Very often you'll get a growl if a dog is in a situation where he's fearful or just uncertain about what's going to take place. Very often a dog will growl and people say, my dog started growling. I can't figure out why. Is he turning bad on me? No, maybe he's got a lot of pain. Maybe he's got arthritis. Maybe he's got a medical condition. So pain or medical discomfort could be another reason that can cause your dogs to growl. A lot of trainers may bypass that. What about resource guarding? What if your dog had to survive on the streets or with a lot of other dogs at a shelter somewhere? So when he sees his food dish or his water dish or even a toy, he becomes overly protective of that. It's called resource guarding. That can cause a growl as well. Easily resolved. We've talked about that before. If you have a resource dog that's growling, send me an email. We'll talk about that next week on the show. Some dogs will growl if they get startled. Some dogs will growl if they're overstimulated. So the question came up, should you be concerned? You should take it seriously, but it's not a sign your dog is bad or aggressive at all. Concerned enough to understand the cause, yes. Afraid of your dog, no. The real danger comes from ignoring the growl or punishing it. If you punish a growl, the dog may stop warning you and skip straight to something more assertive or more aggressive. We're going to take a break, and we come back. I just talked about the growl. I'm going to tell you what you can do with the growl as well. I'm spending a lot of time in this because a lot of people have situations. My dog growls at me, dog growls at another dog. So I'm going to spend a little time here, what you can do right now and what can create a situation to help the growling. Again, check out the website, thepetshow.com. Ask me questions there 24/7. Shoot them up there. I'll talk about it next week on the air. Leave a message on the phone, 877-725-8255, 877-725-8255. Let's take a quick break, then we'll get back to responding to the growl. Is it as bad as most people thinking? What can you do about it? That coming up right here. I'm Warren Eckstein. This is The Pet Show. We are back on The Pet Show. So we're talking about growling, all right? And I gave you all the different reasons. I want to share this with you, what you can do. Don't punish. Never punish the dog for the growl. It's communication, and you want your dog to feel safe telling you that they're uncomfortable. That's what the growl is all about. Within reason. Give your dog a little space in the moment. We all need a little space once in a while, right? Give your dog a little space. Step back. Stop what you're doing. And let your dog settle. Observe the pattern. When does the growling happen? Does it happen when you go to pick up your dog? Does it happen when you're petting your dog? Does it happen when your dog is near food or a toy? Does it happen when you approach your dog's bed? When you try to move them? is something only recently that started. By figuring out these patterns, and I guess this is that kind of made me the rogue of the business, because it's not just a resolution. I always take the time, and I guess it's my years of working with dogs overseas as well. I always try to figure out the why, not just the resolution, but the why. The patterns, when the dog is growling, how the dog's growling. Is it a deep growl? Is it a high pitch? That tells us an awful lot. Patterns actually tell us the cause. And also, it's something to consider. Pain is a possibility. If the behavior is new, pain is one of the most common triggers for that reaction. So if you have a growling dog, before you say or let people say, oh, it's a mean dog, it's an aggressive dog, you got to get rid of the dog. Take the time to figure it out. There's usually a reason for your dog to growl. I think one of the reasons I do this show and continue doing the show for as many years as I've been doing it, it gives me the opportunity to get across information that a lot of people may not really be able to delve into. Yeah, people can housebreak their dog, but things like growling can make all the difference in the world. Now, another thing. I'm not going to get to do this today, but next week. One of the things I was studying and researching over the years, I remember I had a big, Gene Rayburn, I remember Gene Rayburn, the match game. He was my mentor, my good buddy, best of friends. I love Gene. He taught me an awful lot, not about animals, but about media. Anyway, we talked about this once on the air, and he said to me, Warren, for some reason my dog changes with the weather. And I said, Gene, there's a reason for that. The changes of the season, spring, fall, summer, winter, can really make our pets change their behavior as well. So, another topic I'll put up on YouTube. Does the change in the weather, the change in the season really affect your dog or cat's behavior? Whether they live indoors or not, it does. We'll talk about that. Till next week, give all your pets a big hug and a kiss for you, one between the ears for me. I'm Warren Eckstein, and thank you once again for listening to The Pet Show. Alrighty.